So, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to all the ISKCON Brisbane devotees. I'm very happy to be among all of you on this auspicious Diwali day. A very happy Diwali to all of you. So, please accept my humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So today is Deepavali, very auspicious day, very special day for all of us devotees, because Lord Rama came back to Ayodhya on this day, and the whole Ayodhya was littered with different lamps to welcome Lord Ram. And also a very special leela happened for Krishna devotees, is that Lord got the name Damodar today, and Yashoda Mata tied Krishna on his stomach on this very day, which we are celebrating the whole month along, the Damodar Kartik month. And also one more very special thing happened today for all of us ISKCON devotees. Is today is November 14th, and November 14th, 43 years ago on this day, November 14th, 1977, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, left his body and joined Sri Krishna in Goloka Dham. So I thought that, of course, according to the Tithi, Srila Prabhupada Disappearance Day will be on the 18th of this month, but according to the English calendar date, today is the day Srila Prabhupada left his body. So I thought today our topic of discussion will be the glorious passing away or the glorious departure of Srila Prabhupada. We all know that the appearance and the disappearance of the Vaishnavas are both glorious and they are divine. Only thing is, in disappearance we feel suppression and painful because we are not able to physically see that devotee. But the devotees of the Lord give special message to us even when they are alive and even when they pass. When the devotees are alive, they give us great message by their Vani, by their talking, by their achar, by their behavior, by their karya, by their activities, and they give even a greater message when they depart from this world. When we see how Srila Prabhupada left his body, it is so amazing to see in Vrindavan Dham in the month of Kartik, amidst the devotees with complete absorption in Krishna, he left this world. And it is such an important message to all of us. I remember reading somewhere in my memories of Srila Prabhupada, how when Srila Prabhupada was in his final days on the bed, some devotees, not some, in fact everybody was sad, but there were a couple of devotees, like the way, the kind of look that they had in their eyes when they went next to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada made such a beautiful statement. He said, "Don't pity looking at me. All of you are going to face the same situation. Learn from this situation." And I thought that was such a beautiful message. All of us are going to go through that situation. And in the glorious passing away of the Vaishnavas, we can learn so much. Of course, some of you may be wondering, how come on the auspicious day of Diwali, we are discussing something about death? But discussing about death is not inauspicious. Discussing about death is the essence of our spiritual life. Just like in a college, if a professor is talking about final exam, the students don't consider it inauspicious. They don't say, "How come you're talking about exam, sir? Why not you talk about our college canteen? Why not you talk about our college library? Why can't you talk about the biology or the physics or the chemistry labs in the college?" Yes, you can talk about them, but they are all there to facilitate that you can finish your graduation and you can write your final exam well. So yes, all the leelas of Krishna that we discuss and all the other various pastimes we discuss, they all have the same end result, or rather the end result that we are trying to achieve from hearing all these pastimes is to somehow keep Krishna in our remembrance so that we can have a glorious departure from this world. So it's definitely auspicious to discuss about it. So we all know that when the Vaishnavas pass from this world, they leave a great message for us. Now, today I was just thinking in the morning after Mangalarti, some of the devotees were trying to burn some crackers. And I was just wondering, when they just put I don't know if you know, the rockets are very famous crackers. For Diwali, there are certain crackers like flower pots, rockets, and those sparkling incense, which children enjoy a lot. And I was just seeing that the rocket, it just goes up high in the air, and it looks very beautiful when it is up in the air, but ultimately it comes down, right? The sparkling incense, it looks very beautiful and bright, and it's so nice giving light, but at the end it becomes black and turns into ash. And I was just thinking that the life of the material people in this world is something like those Diwali crackers. They look so beautiful while they are alive, on the top of their carriers, doing great things, but at the end they all fall down. But the life of the devotee is glorious in this world and also after this world. That is the beauty. We see the contrast of the end of the movie in a devotee's life and a materialistic person's life. You see, most of the materialistic people, they may be very successful, whether it is the Napoleon Bonaparte or the Alexander the Great, or just about anybody you take it from the social life, political life, or just about anybody you just take out on random in history, and you will see that they had a glorious life, but their end was very sad. They were crying, they didn't want to die, they were passing stool and urine, they were requesting, don't shoot me, they were suffering, and that is how they left their body. And on a contrast, we see that when our devotees leave their life, their bodies, they're so happy. I was reading a couple of years ago a very nice book by Giriraj Maharaj, Many Moons, and he was mentioning in that book that how when Tamal Krishna Maharaj was asking Kirtida Mataji, who was suffering from some disease and was about to leave her body, that what are you feeling? And she was saying that I'm very excited to know what is on the other side. Similarly, when we read the life story of Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, we know at the end of his life, he was so eager. Every day morning when he used to get up during his final days, he was suffering from cancer. When he used to see the sun rise, he used to say, oh, today also I didn't go back to Krishna. So he was so excited to go to Krishna. We see in the life of Gaur Govinda Maharaj in Mayapur Dham, he left his body with his Gopalji's photo in his, towards his, close to his heart, and talking about the separation of Radha and Krishna. We see the leaving of the body of Sridhar Maharaj. We can see the leaving of the body of Surabhi Abhipalayantan Maharaj. We see the leaving of the body of Prithaputra Maharaj, Swami from France. Like that, I can go on and on and on. And we see that they had such beautiful passing away, where maybe they may have some kind of a material suffering, but they were so happy and they were so looking forward to go back to Krishna. So they know where is the next destination. They're not confused and they're not baffled. But people in this material world, they are confused. They don't want to leave this body, right? So they at the end moment they are suffering. So we as devotees, we also want to have a glorious ending to our life, right? In Srimad Bhagavatam it says, the perfection of human life is if we can have a great departure. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Sloka number 6, it says, Ante Narayana Smriti. If at the end you are able to remember Narayan, then your life is successful. Because death we are going to have, whether we like it or not like it, death is certain. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.27, Jatasya hi dhruva mrityu. If somebody is born in this world, he has to die. Somebody dies, he has to born again. So death is certain. But how we are going to go through the death, that is in our hand. That is something we can work on, right? So what to do, how to work on this, how to prepare for our final exam is the question. For the devotees, death is not a miserable termination. For them, it is it's a welcome transition. For the devotees, the death is not a full stop in their life. It's simply a comma. It's a beginning of another journey, right? So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see, the whole theme of Srimad Bhagavatam is centered around death, how to have a glorious death. We see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, how Bhishma passes away. We see how Dhritarashtra passes away. Lord Shri Krishna also leaves his body. We see in Canto 4 how Dhruva Maharaj passes away, keeping his legs on the head of death. We see how Prithu Maharaj leaves his body. We see in Chaitanya Charitamritam how Haridas Thakur leaves his body. In the Ramayana, we see how Sabri Mata leaves her body in front of the Lord, in presence of Lord. We see how Jatayu was so fortunate to have Lord do all the rituals for him. We see how the Ayodhya Vasis left their body. With the Lord, they went back home, back to Godhead. So we see all the scriptures, the central theme is about death. About death. See, the death itself is a very, very important factor. In fact, it is a primary factor which is driving our lives. In fact, if at all there was no death, then we all wouldn't have do anything, because death is the factor that is driving us all. Let's say there is no death. You would never send your child to the school, because you will think anyway nobody is going to die, so you can go to school tomorrow or maybe after a few years. You never work hard to earn money, you never work hard to do anything, because it's a perpetual existence, right? But because we know we have limited time and there is death, we are driven to do work, right? So what should we do? How do we plan our final exam? How can we also have a glorious death? So in the second canto, Parikshit Maharaj, when he's asking this question, what should a dying man do? And very beautifully the reply is in 2.1.5. He says that a dying man should do Shravanam, Kirtanam and Smaranam. Now somebody may say, well, that is about dying man, but I'm healthy, fit and fine. No, we are all in the process. We are all in the queue. We are all also, the only difference is Parikshit Maharaj knew that he's going to die in 7 days, and we don't know whether we are for another 7 hours or not. We are not sure. That's the only difference. So what should a dying man do? They said Shravanam, Kirtanam and Smaranam. So when we do nice Shravanam, hear about the Lord, and then we repeat it, do Kirtanam, then Lord can stay in our Smaranam, in our remembrance. And if the Lord is in our remembrance, then we don't become a remember in this world. If we remove the Lord from our remembrance, then we keep on having a remembership of this material world, the club of this material world. We have to go on renewing our remembership. But if we remember Lord, then we can go back to Godhead. The whole point is Smaranam, Smaranam and Smaranam. And that is very difficult. It is easy said than done. Whatever we are doing in this world is we are making atmospheres, situations around us which are conducive for Smaranam. But situation itself cannot take us back home, back to Godhead. For example, if somebody is surrounded by devotees, and the devotees are chanting Krishna's name, and there is a kirtan going on, and everything is conducive. But if Krishna is not in your remembrance, you are remembering something else at the time of death, then there is no surety that you can go back unless and until Krishna is in your is in your mind, is in your remembrance. So that is why you see in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is stressing so much in this sloka number 34. He says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. You do namaskaram to me, pay obeisances to me, worship me, madparayan. And all this, why? Because we have to have Krishna in our mind. Jeno teno prakarena, we have to somehow get Krishna in our remembrance, because that is the principle of remembrance. Because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatante kalevaram tam tam iveti konteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever you remember at the time of their death, that is what you are going to achieve. That kind of birth you are going to get, that kind of body you are going to get. So it is so important that somehow or the other we have Krishna in our remembrance. But now the point is, if we want to have Krishna in our remembrance, Krishna in our mind, first of all we need to think on who is in our mind. We need to check our mind, right? Before you pour something in a container, you need to check what is there in that container. So, what is there in our mind? In our mind, who is there? Who are we thinking about all the time? A couple of years ago, I had read one very beautiful article in the Back to Godhead magazine. Dear, dear. Dear, dear means D-E-A-R is dear. You know, whom we like, we just call them dear. And D-E-E-R is dear, animal. And that devotee had written a beautiful article, and he was talking about how, there are personalities in the past who had to go away from Lord because of the deer. So here you see Sita Mata, she got attracted to the deer, and she had to go away from, she was forced to be taken away from Lord Ram. You see Dasarath Maharaj, he got fascinated by a deer. He wanted to kill a deer. He ended up killing Shravan Kumar, and then he ended up getting cursed, and then he had to get away from Lord Ram. We see Bharat Maharaj, he had left his kingdom, but at the end in the jungle, he got attracted to a deer, and because of that he had to become a deer, and then Jada Bharat, and he had to take 2 more lives, extra lives, to go back to Krishna. So that means we also need to check that who is our dear. Who is that dear in our life by whom we may get stuck in this material world. We need to check it out. Bharat Maharaj was in a jungle, in a forest, with nobody around. Still, because he got attracted to a deer, he had to take 2 extra lives. Now imagine we are in this material world with hundreds and thousands of contacts on our phone. So imagine if somebody has 2,000 contacts in his phone. So 2,000 into 2 more lifetimes. So many lifetimes we'll have to take if we keep our attachment, right? So we have to very clearly check ourselves, where is our attachment? Who is our dear? Who is in our mind? Because this mind we need to give to Krishna. Krishna, as an expert examiner, he has already leaked the exam paper. The final exam paper, he has leaked it. And in that, Krishna says that I'm not going to check your bank balance. I'm not going to check what activities you have done. What I'm going to check at that moment, antakale prayana samay, when you're leaving this body with the thermometer, is what is there in your mind? Who is there in your mind? And with that, I'm going to give the result, whether you have passed or failed. So somehow or the other, we have to have Krishna in our mind. So we need to check first and clean up our mind. Who is in our mind, and clean up our mind and make space for Krishna. The second thing is we need to be detached but attached. That means, as devotees, we can't say that we should have no attachments. We have attachment, but we have Krishnaized attachments. That means we keep Krishna in center and then have attachment surrounding Krishna, keeping Krishna in the center. I remember a couple of years ago, I had come across a very beautiful story of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya, he was giving sannyas, and one old man approached him. He said, I want to take sannyas from you. So Ramanujacharya said, what is your qualification? So he said, my qualification is, last 40 years I have been married to my wife. She died yesterday and I don't have even one tear in my eye. So I'm detached. Kindly give me sannyas. So Ramanujacharya said, wait, sit down. And then other man came and he was crying and wailing and crying, and he said, I want sannyas. So Ramanujacharya said, oh really, what happened? So he said, no, my son died yesterday. I'm not able to take it. I don't know what to do. I just want to renounce everything. Kindly give me sannyas. So Ramanujacharya immediately gave him sannyas. So now this man who was sitting there, he said, what is this? I asked for sannyas. I'm so detached. I didn't even have one tear when my wife died, and you don't give me sannyas. And look at this man, is full of attachments, so much attachment, and you give him sannyas just like that. And then Ramanujacharya said that it is easy for me to deal with this man because he knows how to love. He knows how to love his son. He's attached to his son. Now what I need to simply do is dovetail his attachment from his son to Krishna. But look at you. 40 years you have been married to your wife and you have no attachment to her, you have no love for her. So I can simply dovetail your love from a materialistic person to Krishna, but I can't create love inside you. If you have no love for that person, you can't love Krishna too. So better you get married again, develop some love, and then come back to me, and then I will take you towards Krishna. So it's not that as devotees we are merciless or we have no compassion, we are very dry. It's not like that. We have compassion, love, affection, but the only thing is we have it with Krishna in center, right? That is called detach, attach. That means when we do our roles, we do it with complete focus and absorption, but the moment the role is over, we are ready to leave. Just like that, just like you see in Visakhapatnam, our temple is right on the beach. And in the evening, lot of children come with the families on Sunday evenings and they play on the beach. They make those beach houses and they enjoy. But as soon as it's evening, twilight, 6:37, the parents are like, okay, come on, let's go home. You're done with your games. And instantly the children get up. They just, dust their hands, dust their clothes, wash their hands, and they're ready to go home. They don't cry, oh, I made such a beautiful house, I don't want to go. They're ready to leave it. They're so intelligent. So same thing with us. Whatever arrangements that we have made in this material world, we should be ready when the right time comes, when the moment comes, we should be ready to dust them off, leave them, right? Because all of us are simply playing roles here. Just like a person may be playing the role of Ravan in a drama with all the Aishwarya and all the 10 heads. And the moment the drama is over, the Ravan is killed, Lord Ram goes back to Ayodhya, the curtains are, closed, the drama is over. What does the Ravan do? He just gets up, goes to the makeup room, the costume change room, changes his costume and is gone back home. He doesn't cry anymore, oh, why did I die? Because he knows it's a drama. So similarly, as devotees, if we are conscious that we are playing our roles in this material world and we are doing our duty, and when the time comes, we just need to dust it off, and then we can be well prepared to face our final exam. So being detached, attached, yes, we have compassion, but Krishna in center. Checking who is in our mind, that is one thing. The third thing is we have to fill our minds with Krishna. When we fill our minds with Krishna, then there is no space for other things. Like, sometimes, in a science lab, they make you do an experiment. In the beaker with water, they make you fill, mix it with salt a couple of times till it comes to its saturation point where you can't mix salt anymore. Similarly, if our minds are saturated with Krishna conscious activities, then there is no space for materialistic things. The other thing we can do as a preparation for our final exam is to settle our accounts. Very important. We need to settle our accounts with the people of this world, right? We are not able to settle our accounts with the people of this world because we think we are staying here permanently, right? I remember in my college life, I had come across one very beautiful book, When the World Collides. It is a fiction book, and I'm not sure if I got the title right because it's many years ago. But the interesting part of the book I remember is it was about a story of an imaginary story where a red color globe is coming very close to the planet Earth, and the scientists announce that any time the globe is going to bang Earth, it's going to collide with Earth and everybody's going to die. So initially people didn't believe it. They said it's not possible. But lo and behold, after a couple of days, they actually saw there is a red globe which is coming closer to Earth. So they understood that, this may collide any time and we may leave, we may have to die. So then there was a sudden change in people's behavior. Everybody started behaving very nicely with each other, because they knew they just had one more week to go and they're all going to die. So the government opened up all the prisons. All the prisoners were left and they came out. All the husband and wife who had taken a divorce, they came back. Anyway, it's 1 week, let's live together. All the sons who had given up their old parents, they came back. 1 more week, let us live with the parents. All the restaurants and the hotels, they opened up for people. They said, we have so much grocery in store, what will we do? We want to give free luncheons and free dinners. So everybody became so nice to each other. All those people who had given loans to the others, they said, we don't want any loan back, just be happy. So everybody became happy. It became like Ram Rajya. You don't have to lock your houses. People were so happy. Nobody wants to steal from anybody. Everybody wants to give to each other. Everybody became so happy. Nobody was locking their houses anymore. But then, alas, what happened? After 10 days, they saw that the red color globe, which was coming near to Earth, went away. So there was not going to be any collision anymore. And immediately people's behavior changed. Again, the prisoners went back to the prison. The husband and wife got separated. The children left their old parents. The restaurants closed. You have to pay. Now everything around changed, So you see, a little element of selflessness can make this whole world heaven, and a little element of selfishness can make this whole world as hell. So here, we are not able to settle our accounts with people because we think we are permanent in this world. But if we think, I'm just here for a couple of hours, I'm just here for some time, then you can very easily forget and forgive. Because we think we are permanent in this world, so it's so difficult for us to forgive anybody. How can I? Why should I? All these things come up, right? I remember reading about, many years ago, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, South African leader. For many years, he was put in a prison in Robben Island for 27 years. Now that Robben Island, if you have been to South Africa, is such a place. Oh my God, at those days, it was like a leprosy colony. It was like a lunatic asylum come jail. And Nelson Mandela had to work in lime quarry, and he was thoroughly humiliated every single day, given a lot of trouble. And there was another opposing leader who later became the president, John Vorster. He was against Nelson Mandela, and he was giving him all sorts of trouble, making case after case and making sure that he doesn't come out of the prison. And every single day there was a death threat because they were trying to pass a bill in the parliament, hang Mandela. So every single day he was living a life of humiliation, so much trouble. There's no guarantee whether he will be living tomorrow, he will live for another moment. He had so much suffering, and the main cause of this suffering, of course, apart from any other factor, was this John Vorster, who was completely against Nelson Mandela. And after 27 years, when Nelson Mandela was released from the prison, the press reporters asked him, so what do you have to say about John Vorster? Now, what would we expect? We'll say, if it is us, we will be like, he's such a crooked man, or But what he simply said was one line. Nelson Mandela simply said one line. He said he was a decent man. He was a decent man. And I thought that was so amazing. He could forgive, right? So that is the difference between great people and ordinary people. And devotees are great people. So as devotees, we need to develop this quality of forgive and forget. not only forgiving, even giving. To start any relationship, we need to give, of course, and to sustain a relationship, we need to forgive. So, giving more than what is expected from us. This is also one way to get ready for the final exam. When we give, and when we settle our accounts, then we can peacefully leave the body. If there are people around us who have a lot of expectations and we have not satisfied them, then we also won't be satisfied, because we are all part and parcel of Lord Shri Krishna. And if everybody in this world is happy, automatically we also become happy. So that is one thing we need to do. And the next thing is, goal fixing. We need to first of all fix up our goals. Do we actually want to go back to Krishna? Because we are still confused. Sometimes we are very inspired. Yes, we want to go back to Krishna. And sometimes we are not sure. Sometimes when we're reading Bhagavatam, we are on another level. And sometimes we're just happy with our present situation. So we need to fix our goal so that we can work on it. Do we actually want to go back? Is that the real goal of our life, right? So once we fix our goal, otherwise we'll simply become a wanderer. So there is a difference between a wanderer and a traveler. A traveler, he knows his goal, where he wants to go. So today if I want to go, let's say to Kashmir, I know I want to go to Kashmir. That place is cold. It snows. I'll pack my bag. I'll take my warm clothes. I'll take my shawl, my sweater, and I'm ready to go. But a wanderer is not sure, so he doesn't know how to prepare for it. So if we are sure and if we have fixed up our goal, yes, I want to go back to Krishna, then we can prepare in that direction. Or if I want to go back to Krishna, then this is what I need to do, and this is what I don't do. This is what I can eat, this is what I can't eat. This is what I can, do activities, and this is what I will not do. So they can make a preparation. So we need to fix up our goal. Other thing is to chant and practice. We need to practice. Like practice makes a man perfect. If we keep practicing, and if we keep practicing, then ultimately we'll be able to remember Krishna at the end of our lives. See, in there is one very beautiful sloka by, actually it's a ashtakam, or rather it is a 100 verses bhajan, but most of the verses are missing. So we just have some keval ashtakam, only some 8 verses with us. And in that Nilakantha Goswami, he mentions very nicely. He says, Nishvase nahi vishvaso kardarudho bhavishyati Kirtaniyamato balyad Hare nameva kevalam Hare nameva kevalam. Says nishvaso nahi vishvasa. If the moment the breath goes out, there's no vishwas, there's no surety that there will be another moment where we will be breathing the air back. We may die. Every moment we have to be conscious. That is why better to take up this Krishna consciousness as seriously as possible, as quickly as possible. So it's a very, very beautiful point. We don't know when it's going to happen, what is going to happen. So we should be very, very serious and practice it. See, I was reading somewhere that when we die, the pain is so high. It is as if 40,000 scorpions are biting us at a time. So I can imagine that during that kind of a pain, will we be able to remember Krishna? It's difficult, so that means we need to practice, and we need to practice. And if we practice, then maybe we can do it. Like I remember a couple of years ago, when we started this yoga workshop for our summer camp children. So we were telling them, then whenever you do yoga, every step you also need to do the breathing, the pranayam with it. Like you put a hand out, then you breathe out. Then when you bring the hands closer, you breathe in. And the children were complaining that Mataji, we can do the exercise. That's very easy. Even the yoga postures are fine. But when you mix it with breathing, it becomes a little complicated because it's difficult to be conscious of breathing, at the same time to be conscious of the movement of hand. But then over the couple of days when they kept practicing, at the end of the camp, they were all fine with it. And then they said, now it comes naturally. When the hand goes out, breathe out. When the hand comes in, breathe in. So that means it's practice. So like now, we're doing lots of activities to maintain our bodies, right? We work out, 9 to 5 job, we cook, we clean, we study, we do so many things. But if we can practice, just like pranayam with yoga or breathing with yoga. Similarly, if we can practice to remember Krishna along with whatever activities that we are presently doing, and if remembrance of Krishna becomes a part of us, it comes natural to us, then at that testing time, when we are leaving our body, it will come easily. That means we'll have to practice right now. So if we keep practicing and if we keep practicing, then no matter what kind of situation that we are put in, we will be able to remember Krishna, right? We have to practice it. Even in the house, whatever we are regularly doing, like you see the Matajis when they are cooking, whatever are the regular masalas, the regular spices that they use in the kitchen, automatically those spices, they just come in the front, whether it is salt or turmeric or certain masalas. But what spices you aren't using, gradually they go behind in the cupboards. Similarly, whatever nature, whatever habit that we develop, that will come in the front. So at that time when we are leaving our body, that will easily come to us. But if we think I will superficially do it at the end of the life, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So if we keep doing it and we keep doing it now, then we'll remember Krishna at the time of death. The other thing is reading scriptures. So important, because sometimes we do understand about the importance of remembering Krishna and all those things, but it has to be reinforced and reminded again and again, and that happen only when we keep reading and we keep hearing the pastimes and how the different devotees have left their body. So that will again motivate us and re-motivate us to redesign and reorient our life in the right direction. The other thing is, as I just said, practice. It is not simple. In my college life, I was reading about Beethoven. In the 1700s, he was very famous. So once it so happened that he was doing a big show and there are thousands of people watching it. And one young girl ran on the stage to get his autograph. And then she was asking him that, how do you manage to play so well? And he said, and she asked, do you think I can also play like this someday? And he said, you can play provided you practice for 40 years, 18 hours a day. So that means he meant to say that for 40 years he had been practicing 18 hours in a day to play what he had played today. So I was just thinking in my mind that when a materialistic person, just to put up some material show or material expertise, has to work so hard, then why do we think that we can simply, just very easily or playingly go back to Goloka Vrindavan? We really need to work on it. We really need to work harder. We really need to practice. Just to play one piano, he worked for 18 hours a day. So we're thinking that we can go back to Krishna without working hard. We also need to work hard. We also need to work hours together in our day-to-day life to come to that level when we can remember Krishna easily. I was couple of months ago, we had invited His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj for our Sunday class, and one point which touched my heart, Maharaj was saying that the class was on Grihasthas, and one devotee asked that, Maharaj, what can we do as a Grihastha and how can we remember Krishna? And he just said, remember KISS principle. So we were like, what is Maharaj trying to say? And then Maharaj said, KISS means keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. So he said, as Grihasthas, don't complicate your life. Keep it simple. Don't have many aspirations. I want this, I want that, I want that. everything is going to go away. You're not going to carry anything with you. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. Whatever is your requirements, your regular requirements, work on it, and that's it. Keep your life very simple. Don't make it very complicated, right? Don't make it very complicated. Don't try to build castles. We're not going to carry them with us. And I thought that was a very, very beautiful point, right? And the other thing which we can do is not to try and change others, because we have very limited time, and in that time we have to change ourselves and mold our consciousness in such a way that we can remember Krishna. And we already have a lot of responsibility on our head, because our soul has been traveling from so many species, from so many lifetimes, from one body to another. So let's work on ourselves and not try and change others, right? See, let's say you are going, you're traveling in a car, and you can see on your rear mirror the car which is following you. You're not able to see it because the driver is driving, off way from the road. Now you don't stop the car and you don't go and tell the driver that, can you drive properly? I'm not able to see your car in the rear mirror. What you simply do is you adjust your rear mirror in such a way that you can see the car behind you. So what we need to do is to make changes in our life, to get adjusted with people around us and not to try and change them. The other principle is get adjusted, or rather be happy and grateful in whatever situation you have, and try to take pleasure in that instead of waiting for some right time and right situation to start your devotional life, or to because by the time you adjust situations and people around you, it will be time for you to go. I remember many years ago when we were going from Visakhapatnam to Mayapur, our co-passenger in our compartment, there was a small little boy, and he was trying to fix the window because he had a window seat and the window was not opening properly. So he was trying to put some cardboard, he was trying to put some cool drink bottle, some plastic water bottle. He was trying every way to make sure that the window opens and stays, because every time he was trying to open, it was getting closed. And he kept on trying and it didn't work. It is a one-night journey from Vizag to Howrah, that is Calcutta, Mayapur. And next day afternoon, we were in Howrah. And by the time the boy fixed it and the window was just right, we reached the Howrah station. And the boy was crying, I don't want to get down. Now I want to have my train journey, because from yesterday I've been just trying to open the window. And now when my window is open, it's for time for us to go. And the father was like, we can't, we have reached our destination. We need to get down. And then they somehow convinced him, and he was so reluctant. And that impression stayed in my mind, for so long. I was like, wow, this is what is happening with us. By the time we try to adjust things and people and situation, it's time for us to go. It's time for us to go. So better, no matter what is the present situation, let's try to be grateful about it and make the best out of it, right? Instead of waiting for the right situation. The other thing is, I just said, accept the situation, be grateful, because just like in a restaurant, you order something, and when the order arrives, you don't complain because the waiter has brought just what you have ordered. Now you can't change your order now. Similarly, whatever is happening in our lives, it's our previous karma and we have ordered it. The other people and devotees in our life are simply serving the order which we had made last time, in the last life. So now we can't complain and change the order. Whatever we have done previously, it will be definitely served. So better to accept it instead of revolting and being unhappy about it. Accept the situation and make the best out of it. The other point is to be conscious all the time of the time. Be conscious of the time and not waste time. Because, just like when you remove the ice crystals from the refrigerator, we know very well that the moment the ice crystals are out from the refrigerator, every moment they are melting and they are melting and they are melting, and you can't stop them from melting. And very soon the crystals will become liquid, they'll become water. Similarly, the moment that we are out from the womb of our mother, we know that the countdown has begun towards death. So we can't get even a single moment back. So better to utilize our time properly and to be conscious. If we are conscious of death always, then we can do wonder. I remember this very beautiful story of Sant Ekanath. There was one man, very pious man actually, and he went and asked a beautiful question to Sant Ekanath. He said, Swamiji, how come you are not tempted to do any bad activity, any sinful activity? How you are able to remain so pure? You know, how nicely you are worshipping the Lord, so nicely you are carrying over all activities. So Sant Ekanath suddenly became very grave. Instead of answering the question, he said, you fool, you are asking me this question, but you know what? After 7 days, you're going to die. You're going to die. I can see that on your face. Go and make preparations. Don't waste your time. So immediately this man who was in a good mood, he ran home. Oh my God, the saintly person has predicted I'm going to die in 7 days. What should I do? So he started making all preparations, his insurance policy, speaking with his children, grandchildren, making all the arrangements. And on the 6th day, Sant Ekanath, he visited him. And then he said, so old man, how are you? He said, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just preparing, just one more day to go. And then he said, so how many sinful activities you committed in last 6 days? Now this old man said, when I know I'm going to die in 7 days, why will I commit sinful activities? I didn't even have any time to think about sinful activities. I was so busy preparing for my death, I didn't even think about it. So then Sant Ekanath said, look, you're not going to die. It's just that I just did this prank with you because I wanted you to realize that just like when you know that you're going to die in 7 days, the thought of committing sinful activity doesn't come to your mind and you're so serious. Similarly, not only this 7 days, you should always have that focus in your mind that I may die any moment. I may die any moment. And when you keep death in front of you, then you can never commit any sinful activities and you'll be very serious in Krishna consciousness. So when we are conscious of death, then we can be very serious in Krishna consciousness. Because actually there is a dragger which is hanging next to our neck, all of us, everybody. But the only sad point is the dragger is invisible. And because of that, we become so confident that we are going to live permanently. If the dragger of death was consciously visible, we would have been so pakka, perfect in everything and quite serious and sincere. But we're not able to see it because it's invisible. So death is definitely following us and it's very, very close to us. So when we are in that consciousness, we can be more serious in Krishna consciousness. Next thing is self-introspection. We have to take a break, just like people get their cars serviced. They get their vehicles oiling, service, water service, cleaning, regular basis to keep it working. We also need to service our minds. So we should just figure out one day. Like for us, we have figured out we do it every Ekadashi. Just spend a lot of time with ourselves. And self-introspection, what kind of devotee I am, where am I heading to, what am I doing, am I better than before, better than yesterday, but how is the whole thing going? Just have a balance sheet. It's up to you. I'm just giving one example. You can just on random select one day in a month or a fortnight and then work on you, or on yourself, self-introspection. A couple of months ago, my son was asking me one very beautiful question. He said, do you know of a man who shaves every day, but still his beard is growing very long? And I said, I don't know, if somebody is shaving every day, how can the beard grow long? And then he said, Mama, it is a barber. Barber is shaving every day, but his own beard is growing long. He's shaving the beards of other people. And I thought that was such a beautiful point. It touched my heart. I thought that as preachers, sometime, because ISKCON is a preaching movement, we are so worried about helping others to curb their anarthas. But what about our own anarthas? We shouldn't become like a barber who is trying to help others to remove their anarthas. But what about our own anarthas? So unless and until we do a self-introspection, then our anarthas beard is growing and we don't even realize it. So that is one very important point. And last point is, be nice to everybody. Don't offend anybody. You'll have to unnecessarily carry the baggage of karma to your next life. Try to finish and settle with people in this life and try and give more than expected to everybody and finish up your accounts with people and get serious in preparing for our own journey back home, back to Godhead. See, for a karmi or for a materialistic person, a death is like a axe. They're afraid, oh my God, death is like an axe going to kill them, But for a yogi, death is a tool to take them to Krishna. Just like sometimes we take a car and we go to the airport, and when we reach the airport, we are ready to give up the car because now we have to board the flight. We don't cry that I don't want to give up a car. You have to give up the car, then only you can board the flight and go to your next destination. So for the yogis, this body or the death is just a tool. They know that they're going to their next destination, right? That is why you see in the Bhagavatam, the story of Dadhichi comes. Dadhichi is more than happy to give his bones to Indra. He doesn't even have a second thought because he knows if I give it up, I can get another one. So for the yogis, it's very simple. They know that if I give up this car, I take another car. I give up this car, I take another flight. And they're well prepared. So for a yogi, the death is a tool. For a materialistic person, the death is an axe which is going to kill them. They're afraid of it. But for a devotee, death is an invitation of love. It's an invitation of love by Lord Shri Krishna. And it's an invitation to come back home, back to Godhead, to Lord Shri Krishna. So death can become a lover's invitation for us if we develop that loving relationship with Krishna. Just like a young girl, when she's getting married, she's crying because she's going to leave her parents. At the same time, there's a lot of happiness in her heart because she knows that she's going to the person's house whom she knows very well, who loves her, and she's going to be happy there. So similarly for devotees, when they leave this body, it's a little painful because they're going to leave the physical association of those devotees out here in this world, but they're happy because they know the destination. They're going to a place where there is somebody who loves them all the more than anybody in this world, and who is their ever well-wisher. So for a devotee, death is a lover's invitation. So we all need to work hard in this direction, develop a loving relationship with Krishna, develop a loving relationship with devotees, be grateful, be forgiving, be serious, be conscious, fix up our goal and work in this direction. Then we can also have a glorious death like Srila Prabhupada, and we can go dancing back home, back to Godhead. So I will end it here and I'll open it up if in all there are any questions. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, I see one question by Ambika Suryavamshi. Hare Krishna Mataji, how can we stop having attachment? We don't have to stop having attachment. We can simply dovetail our attachment to Krishna. We can dovetail our attachment towards Krishna, and we can have our attachments with Krishna in center. So that means if we are attached to our children, we keep in our mind that these are Krishna's children, and that is how we love them. If you love your husband and serve him, you remember he's a part and parcel of Krishna, and that is how you serve him. If you love your wife, you know she's part and parcel of Krishna and you have to protect her. So you keep Krishna in your mind, and that is how you work, right? Okay. What can be done to avoid Vaishnava Aprad? Harini Devi Dasi. What can be done to stop Vaishnava Aprad? Yes, if we are... See, we don't do any aprad towards our nose. We don't do any aprad towards our hand because we know they're our part and parcel. Similarly, if we are conscious that everybody in this world is part and parcel of Krishna, and then we'll have a loving attitude towards everybody. the moment we have loving attitude towards everybody, then we don't feel envious of them, and then we don't offend them. So we have to be very, very conscious. The whole point is we have to love everybody, and that is possible only when we connect to Krishna. The moment we are connected to Krishna, then see, when the sky is blue, you can see everything very nicely. When the sky is dark, you can't see anything nicely. Everything is connected to the sky. Similarly, when you are connected to Krishna, then everything goes very well in your life. When we get disconnected to Krishna and we develop false ego and we think independent of Krishna and we think we know better than Krishna, then from false ego arises all the other anarthas of kama, krodha, moha, mada, matsarya, and then we end up doing Vaishnava prad. So the whole point is to be connected to Krishna. Okay. All right. So, thank you so much. So we'll stop it here. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Sab Krishna, Krishna, Krishna lage. Sab Krishna.